welcome and let's kick off. Peter, very much welcome to the European Tech Show. Thank you for your patience while we sorted out our technology. We are thrilled to have you. How are you?
Of course. I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Look, we ask everyone, give us a quick intro into who you are and what you're building and what Dealroom is all about.
Yeah, so really shortly, Peter, Dutch, Amsterdam, but have been entrepreneur myself for 10 years, I think, built GrowTribe. Also launched 6 accelerator programs for Startup Bootcamp in 2012-13 in Europe and helped out building tech ecosystems for the last 10 years in Europe, in Berlin, Amsterdam, and London, where I lived. And now the last year, I really joined at Dealroom as a CMO, CGO, and really supporting the mission of Dealroom. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. We love Dealroom. We love all the insights. We love the analysis. There's lots that we want to get into. I think one of the things I was reading about before was, the global index report that you have about different tech ecosystems. Would love to get your insights on what you think are the burgeoning kind of the next wave of ecosystems in Europe. We had Kitty Mayer on last week who spoke about Munich as one of the next big hubs. What other hubs do you see coming out of Europe and being the next big centers of European tech?
Yeah. So we launched it in May, 288 cities in the report, 66 countries. I think it's one of the most transparent index that's out there. A lot of analysis. In Europe, you see like cities, getting a little bit more momentum. So, for example, Paris, really the last year, a lot with Macron pushing the French ecosystem is one. Sweden is doing really well as well. Stockholm and a lot more unicorns. Not Lovable is one, but there's more. München as well, region has a lot of momentum as well. But also Cambridge, for example, on deep tech. Zurich as well on deep tech. So there's a couple. Those are, in my opinion, the hubs that are really in Europe driving on this moment. You can see that on enterprise value growth, for example. So not like how much they raise, because of course London will raise more because of the size, but you also need to look at like the enterprise value growth of those regions. And the second question, I think there is always also looking at like the sectors. So like Zurich and München have a lot of like deep tech, technical universities, robotics, defense tech, but also AI, for example. And the other hubs have other focus on other sectors. But those are the hubs that are really driving on this moment and have a lot of momentum.
And out of the back of that report, I think one of the headlines was Paris being the bigger or more exciting ecosystems in London. And I think that, you work in growth, you work in marketing. That seemed like it caused a lot of controversy. Was that, I guess it wasn't controversy. It was like a heated point. I think lots of people were weighing in on like the methodology. Was that good for you guys? Was that like good attention? Or did it like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Like nobody pays for this report to be higher or as a city, right? That's I really want to make that clear, and it's 100% transparent. So you can look at the methodology that Dealroom is applying, and we don't look only at like VC or like total raised, because then of course London is always. So we also look at like now at alumni, for example. We also look at spin-outs and startups that come from universities. We also look at like enterprise value growth, for example. So how is the ecosystem growing? And this year we looked at the methodology and we said, okay, this is a good picture. And then when 1 month before we released it, we looked at it and then, yes, Paris, in the region of Paris, was outperforming London this time. And then we looked at it and we were like, okay, does this make sense? Yes. Oh, this is the methodology. We double checked with everything. And we said, yeah, this year, if we use this methodology, we look at momentum. So you need to look at an index. There's no finish line. There's not like we stop tomorrow and look at like what is the best tech ecosystems in the world. That it's an infinite game, right? That's what a lot of people do. Make a wrong judgment, because startups are an infinite game, but tech ecosystems are infinite games. There's no finish line. So this year we looked at it and we were like, yeah, Paris is performing. And if we look at those metrics to give a better better overview to look at an overall of an ecosystem, not like 2 or 3 metrics. Like it's a pretty sophisticated methodology. Now, and then we said, okay, of course we launched it, and the press release was more like, hey, here's the index. Those are the cities that perform well. Yeah, and then the media took run with it. And I also think there's some credits to Macron and the leadership in France, because I think if you look back 5 years or 3 or 4 years ago, Paris was really underperforming versus Amsterdam and Berlin, right? So there's a lot of momentum on alumni, on AI, on enterprise value growth, on second-time founders, those kind of things in Paris. And that's why I think on this moment, Paris, and it can be next year, it can be London again, maybe, but on this year, I think it's good to say and backed by data that Paris is on this moment number one.
Yeah, we've spoke about that before. I was saying, I can't remember when the episode was. It was with Adil maybe, but we spoke about Macron's role in the sort of tech ecosystem, whether it's like the French.
I lost your audio.
Oh, my audio?
I don't hear you guys.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me at all, Peter, or not?
Yeah, now I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, we were speaking about Macron and his role. Whether it's like the French Tech Next 40, whether it's just supporting startups that are coming out of the ecosystem. Because I used to work at Pigment, and he literally did a post about I think it was our Series C or Series D, and the post obviously gets like 4,000 likes. We got loads of inbound from that. Like it actually, getting super specific with it, it literally created ARR for the business, just from him just posting on LinkedIn about us. It's insane.
Yeah, he's been an amazing advocate for tech in France.
He's done an amazing job.
Yeah.
He's literally on the front lines whenever possible.
Yep.
Even if it's getting selfies with these founders, which is just great for their personal brand.
It's the culture that's he's kind of driving.
On that sort of culture thing, Peter, in your bio on X, it says fixing Europe. I'd love to open that up a little bit and just get your take on, I don't know, the current situation, where we kind of are, where we need to be, how do we get there?
Yep. So a really big question, but I try to point a couple of things because it is it's system thinking and it is culture and it is about funding and it's about momentum. But let's a couple of steps back maybe. But fixing what I mean with that is like from roughly 2008 2009, Europe put the brake on tech and on innovation. And the US continued further after the financial crisis with taking more risk. Roughly, that's what you see in all the graphs. So what happened from 2008, 2009, most of those tech companies, social media platforms and all the other ones, now everybody knows that, started growing further. And now in 2025, also the productivity is down in Europe. Our GDP per capita is down, so more states in America are more wealthy, let's say, than people in Europe, and I think a lot of Europeans don't know that. So that's one, and of course the investment ecosystem is growing as well. So where we are now, you can think of like one, we lost competitiveness a little bit. If you look at the Draghi report, like are we still participating in the world economic sector? Secondly, we have a problem with our energy. We are pretty independent. We're not independent with energy. And thirdly, we're also not really self-reliant on resilience and safety on the defense tech. So if you take those three together, I don't think you can say like, hey, Europe is thriving. There's a lot of good stuff. Like I'm an entrepreneur myself, optimism about entrepreneurship and about startups and stuff. But if you look at the data, and it's also all the reports that Dealroom is making, and we have a beautiful one about to accelerate Europe. Yeah, there's a lot of things a lot of bureaucratic regulation that needs to be going down. Pension funds need to invest way more in startups, for example. It's still a big issue there. The spin-outs need to be better in commercializing the research, because we have a lot of research. We have great universities in Europe, and maybe better technical universities than even the US, but we don't commercialize it well on it, and we don't scale it. The point is a little bit that I think, and I'm writing about tech ecosystem for 10 years, for Tech Leap, Startup Delta, Startup Amsterdam, helping for some of the data was available for 10 years. Okay, maybe it's new for policymakers, and we started educating, report. But now, after 5 years, hey, come on, are we waking up? And then we have all the posts. And now, 10 years later, we're still having some issues. So that's, I think, for me, is like, okay, it's truly broken. And then the question will be, do you reform from within, or do you reform from outside?
You have a tweet that, so you posted a tweet and then someone else replied to it, and you basically say in your reply to that tweet, you say, and that starts with a large crisis leadership. Give us some more flavor about what kind of like a crisis would look like. Are we in a crisis now? Like, you know, people are talking about Europe. There's excitement, but then also, this kind of underlying data isn't necessarily saying that we're thriving.
Yeah.
What is that crisis like looking?
Yeah, so nobody can predict the future. So I always and we with Dealroom, we also look at like the data, like we analyzing, and then other people sometimes predict what happens in the future. But you can, a couple of things like we just discussed macro. I think you can reform from within, and then you need proper leadership. And other countries, there are examples in history where you can leadership can do. Argentina, for example, right? I'm not saying it's good word, but change in the system. That's what you want, right? It can also be the federation in Europe, right? If we think, okay, we need a federation in Europe, what Draghi is also supporting. Okay, what does that mean, and how quickly can that happen? That's the from within. I think that requires hardcore, leadership, and sometimes we have peacetime CEOs and we have wartime CEOs. Now, maybe it's now time for a bit more harder pro-Europe leadership who's bold to break with traditional industries, because the lobby in traditional industries in Europe is still super strong. And that's why I think the tech companies and the reform in the capital market have not happened, maybe. And the other one would be if the crisis will happen and the economy will collapse and we are maybe following the US as we're not a player but more a playground, let's say, right? If that way, then the question would be like the reform from outside, and that will be more like a decentralization approach, right? That people will with AI and with crypto will create new systems, and then those new systems will start to transform the current systems, right? Nobody knows when this happens and what will happen. You can play on the both scenarios from within and without. But I think that if we don't do it, then it will be says it becomes stagnation, and then the question will be: can we pay the welfare? Can we pay the pension? Can we pay for our education? Can we pay for our healthcare and the quality of life that we have in Europe? The only point is here always is it is system thinking. It's not like on a yearly you see it. It's like 5 years, 10 years. It's like long cycles, long life cycle elements that you see. So it can still take a couple of years.
Yeah, you also just adjust the appearance of Europe. And I mean, you wrote a tweet again. You said like the important point is that Europe doesn't look strong in any of these situations. And this was after I think the EU-China summit only lasted one day. And you say like, I know all these handshakes are just intentions, no guarantees. The appearance is we strong values. How do we show that, like change our appearance in terms of, you know, we are kicking back. We are trying to get there, and I think that's the whole point of this show is to show that things are going on in Europe. We're building big companies. We're a force to be reckoned with, basically.
Yeah. No, and that tweet was about in 1 week we had the appearance in China where they stepped out of the buses, the European Union, and in China that's not an accident, right? That's on purpose. So in the US as well, and I know all the trade show stuff happens in the back, and it's like but the appearance that Europe is strong, and if you maybe and in 2008 or 2009 before the financial crisis, we were maybe economy-wise bigger than the US. Right, or at the same level. So in 10 years, 15 years, we are not a big player on the global geopolitical landscape, right? And that will our values and also the quality of life that we have, probably, right? And we take that maybe for granted a little bit, and that requires that we stand up again and say, hey, we want to have our own values and be independent, right? But that will not go without battles, probably, and it will be a bumpy road.
Yeah.
China put the China wall, and they have their own ecosystem. US is like pushing hard on tech. A lot of pension funds in the US are investing in Europe, and if companies as Lovable, for example, will be successful, the wealth creation is not going to Europe. The wealth creation goes to the VC, this moment health LPs, a lot of LPs from America. So all the wealth creation of startups that take US money will go to the pension funds in the US, and that is like, so it's almost like that can never continue for another, I don't know, 5 years, maybe, or 10 years. It will break. That cannot continue. So appearance that we're strong, or you can be a boomerang, like a boomer mindset, and say the current system is broken, let it fail, and then we're rebuilding it. Or you say like, hey, we're going to change that from within, but then you need really strong leadership. And then, for example, you can say, in the upcoming 10 years, we want that all the tech sovereignty, for example, that we have, so all the cloud and all the other stuff need to be also some European companies. You cannot do it now. You cannot switch now and say like, hey, let's buy only European companies and use European companies for payments and cloud and all those things. But you can make a plan and say, in 10 years, we want to be there.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the Federation of Europe has the best possibility. Extremely internal battle. It's not in battle Europe versus US. It's an internal battle. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think there are two groups of form from outside and reform from within inside. But that we are not looking strong anymore, that's the appearance. That's an issue, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so challenging. It's such a long term to plan to build the companies in Europe to support the European infrastructure, and to also to get that capital movements to change, to incentivize the European pension funds to invest. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, even Lovable itself, I think, is actually registered in the US. And yeah, like all the money in European VCs is US money. It'll take time, and I think we're going to start to see that change as we see bigger exits, and hopefully that risk appetite, that cultural risk appetite across Europe will change as well. But look, Peter, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. When you've got reports, news, insights, come back on the show, talk about it. We'd love to have you on again.
Two things maybe to mention. End of August, Dealroom will launch the Power Law ranking, which is showing all the who are the best investors. Really interesting. And secondly, we will also make a list of like what we call the 100 thought bread companies, and those are companies who make 100 million revenue or more. And we will promote those. Dealroom is definitely also supporting Europe on those platforms. So I hope that will get some exposure.
No, we'll
try and promote.
Both of those things are in the pipe already. So yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Cheers for joining us.
Good. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.